In this episode of the AMTC 2021 interview series, I'm joined by Frank Herzog from HZG Group. Hi, Frank. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, it's a pleasure.
Really good pleasure to speak to you. I was listening to you last night when you gave your presentation at the startup session, and I was just fascinated by your story. So could you just provide a brief overview of your long and distinguished career within the additive manufacturing sector?
When should I start from?
Why don't you start from the machine you were holding and your girlfriend, now wife?
Yeah. So I started the whole AM story in the mid of the 90s. When I was a student at the University of Coburg, and I started to find out how powder materials can be treated by laser to build 3D parts. And so I started with a CO2 laser, but I needed to have a device to layer powder and to build a few layers to see if that works. And that was a small device which I made a sketch of and let build in the mechanical department of the company I started for this project. Yeah, and it didn't work very well because the CO2 laser is not so very well suited for melting material. But at that time, my girlfriend, now my wife, she worked on her final project. For some coincidence, she introduced a solid-state laser. And I found out, as we were also discussing about technical topics, because she's also a mechanical engineer, I found out that this device has 10 times less wavelengths, and then asked her if she allows me to put my device under her laser. And obviously she allowed, otherwise I would not be here. And it was a fantastic moment to find out that this setup worked. It was really small plates which we melted. We brought them to the university, cut them in half, and made microstructure investigation and found out it was completely dense. And this was a really big wow effect. Let me say, skipping point, the start of everything, to be honest.
Okay, so that was the foundation of Concept Laser. So if you just briefly take us through the Concept Laser story and then how that brought you to HZG Group.
So that wasn't exactly the foundation, because typical startup story, you have an idea, you're enthusiastic, you're excited. And then I think the next day you're a little bit calmed down because you think, oh, where do I get the money for it? Who builds such machines? Where to get the people who develop with us? We were very lucky that we have two successful company owners in our family. Kirsten, so that's the name of my wife, Kirsten's father and her uncle, being in the mold shop sector, in the prototyping sector. And we had a meeting. We asked them to listen to our idea and maybe to give a little bit money. And after 2 hours, they were as excited as we are. And they granted us 1.5 million Deutsche Mark at that time, not euros, Deutsche Mark. But they clearly stated, hey, you can have this money, but after 2 years, there's no further significant financial support because we have our own companies. We have to invest our own machines in our own people. So that was a big chance, but also a big load on our shoulders because, there's a bit of pressure after 2 years from sketch. And I think you're dealing with family money. This is also special.
It's easier, but so much harder at the same time.
You don't want to disappoint your family. That's clear. But we made it. After 2 years, we developed a prototype machine and a pre-serial machine. And with this pre-serial machine, that was end of 2000, we have gone to the Euromold show, which was at that time the most important show for mold applications.
Preform Next, wasn't it?
Preform Next, exactly. And the fun fact is, we were so enthusiastic to build that machine, to get it done for the show, that nobody believes today. We had no idea.
I was at that show. I remember it.
You remember that?
2000,
okay.
Yes, I do.
We had no idea how to sell a machine. We had no expertise for that. And Daimler arrived at the booth and they said, we buy this machine if you can build this part.
Wow.
And this was a very, very complex part we never built before. But yeah, we have no chance, let's take it. So we took the chance, and the technology was not so robust at that time. We were really day and nights in front of the machine because the dispenser stopped, or you had a problem with the software, a software bug. It was really the very early days. I think we were the first commercial system on the market for laser melting. But we made it. So we had not really a Christmas, not really New Year. But we got the results, which were fantastic. At the beginning of January 2002, we made this part. We delivered to Daimler, and Daimler delivered that they bought the machine. Yeah.
Wow.
That was our start.
Amazing. So what really strikes me and really hit home last night listening to you and listening to you now is the humanity and how focused you are on people over money. Now, I know money is important and it obviously plays its role in how you've developed, but the way you focus on people and family and your local area, it's really important to you. So from your knowledge and expertise and everything you've been through with Concept Laser and now with HZG Group, can you just tell us a little bit about the purpose of the group and the remit of the organisation, what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, as in all things you're doing, it's people doing the business. And the first very important thing is, as you mentioned, I think it's trusting each other, giving the feeling that you are the right partner for a job or for a project, or being an investor for a young company, for example. So HZG Group is in total is an organization which takes care for young companies. We take shares in these companies, but we also have as a further organization the NATCON, New Additive Concepts. This is a research and development center and an incubator where we invest latest 3D printing technology or software or AI systems. And in this environment, we give the young companies an environment where they can work in, which would be too expensive to invest. And I think what is a unique selling point in this whole construction is that my wife and I, we are in that business in, let me say, 25 years. From finding out how it works with powder meters and lasers to founding a company, growing company, going to an exit with GE. I think we've gone through a lot of things, many questions we had to answer over that time. Critical situations, crisis, world economic crisis, growth, people. I think this is what we can give back, the experience to the young people. And it's not only venture capital which we give to those companies.
I mean, it's more, well, it's at least as valuable as the money, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think also with the AMTC here, we had some connections to young people. I think with this background story, with the passion, still the excitement
obviously.
In my eyes, you see maybe, they get a real feeling that we are maybe the right partners to grow them into a successful future. And to round this a little bit is also we founded, or we opened up a tech fund which is 50 million. So of course we need money for the young people. 25 million, my wife and I, we have filled in, and the other 25 million are filled from corporate companies or famous family offices. So because we want also here to spread 3D printing technology also to other big companies or to other families who have the financial power to improve and to support young people.
I think that's so amazing. I really do. So based on some of the young companies that you're working with, are there any that are particularly exciting that you can tell us a little bit about? Or
Yes, in total, I think we are in the what we call DACH region. So Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and north of Italy. That's why I say Deich region.
Okay.
And we are approached by really different companies. So there's one company working with plastic granulate, original material. They print parts with original material. It's fantastic technology because they can also recycle waste material and reuse it in their technology.
Okay.
And they can also use high performance materials like PEEK or Ultim in their device. And that's
Big deal.
That's a big deal, and it's exciting because I come from the metal side.
Yes,
And now
of
I see
course.
also the plastic side, the polymer side. And yeah, I also watch closely the young people, how they work, how excited they are about their technology, how proud they are. And we do not want to dictate, to say,
Yep.
go that direction. We want to advise, we want to support, we want to give a little bit a punching partner where they can really ask questions and we give them an honest answer. And that sometimes leads to a little bit correction in the business model, for example, which is maybe good later for the success of the company. And there's a second one, which is announced in the next days. It's a simulation software tool which has AI in the background,
Okay.
which makes it more foreseeable to print metal parts, for example. So basically, this software simulates the heat going into the part, the heat transfer, and the dissipation of the heat in the part, and gives recommendation how to expose the part.
Oh,
This is really cool technology.
it is, yes.
And you can extend this later in because you're learning out of the results and learning and
The data.
the data. You collect
Yeah.
the data. Where we focus on 3D printing
Yeah.
in our investments, in our support, but also adjoining complementary
Absolutely.
areas
yeah.
like
It's the
AI,
ecosystem, is what
automation,
everyone calls it.
robotics,
Yeah.
and so on,
Yeah.
which is linked to 3D printing, for example, is
Absolutely.
also a field where we are investing.
Wow. Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So if we just, to round up then, if we just take a little step back, just to see the bigger picture, across the whole AM sector, what do you think needs to happen to scale up the progress that we're seeing? Because that is what needs to happen next, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I have the feeling the technology is still at the beginning of its possibilities still.
Really?
Yeah.
So
It's
30 years later.
so much to
Yeah.
do, so much to do. I think the key words are internationalization and industrialization. I think these are the key words. I learned from my company, and GE joined in 2016, and it was a long way to go to reach, let me say, 90% of a technology, of a machine robustness. And I think we took the right decision to bring GE into our organization, because the rest of the 10% to a really industrialized machine, I think it's very costly. It's time consuming, costs a lot of energy, and you need to have really a big organization from an industrial level
Yeah.
to get technology really to an industrial standard. And I think this is what the industry is waiting for. We had fantastic technology over the last 20 years, but I think we are now stepping into a new situation. If AM should be successful, and it shall be successful, I think we have to go the step into industrialization, into robust systems, in systems where you build a part today and the next day it's the same, you know?
Yeah.
And there's many...
Repeatability.
Yeah, repeatability. I think this is, for me, the most important thing. And maybe another keyword, a third one, is standardization.
Yes. Yes.
Every OEM has its own powder handling system. the fume which comes out of the process chamber is sucked and filtered. Every OEM has its own solution. I think as these are very important topics for health and safety, I think the OEMs should really think about to standardize those topics and bring to the market, because it's for the health and safety for the people who are working with the technology.
Sadly, we are out of time, but I
Oh,
could carry on
it's a pity.
talking to you for hours, believe me. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for taking the time. It was a pleasure. See you next time.